Hello and welcome to another video. My name's Adana and I am so happy that you're here. Lately I've been feeling overwhelmed and kind of constrained in my studio space. If you've been a subscriber of my channel for a while now, then you probably already know that I tend to rearrange things in my studio quite often. In my defense, most times it's because when the seasons change, the direction of the light from the sun changes, and what might be a great corner to paint in at, let's say, 11 a.m. on a sunny August day becomes a completely dark pit by 4 p.m. on a snowy January afternoon. But this time, as I started moving things around, I began to feel a little bit like a pack rat or something. My studio is overflowing with these little shiny objects that I've just accumulated over the years, and I started to ask myself, why does it seem like I'm accumulating so many art supplies at a greater speed than I'm actually using them? So in today's video, I'd like to explore that question, be honest with myself, understand, the extent of the problem if there is one, and also work through what I'll do about it. Hey, so I have a problem with hoarding art supplies. I often will buy things just because I'm like, ooh, that'll be perfect for a little project that I have in mind. Or, oh, this art supply is on sale. Like, let me stock up on it. And then I have all of these things, scattered around my studio. And I'm like, I haven't used it. I haven't even thought about it. I don't even remember what I have. So I thought, I know I have a bunch of ideas for a new painting series, and instead of getting back on the circle of buying new stuff that I don't actually need, maybe stuff that I won't actually use or may not be the best way to move an idea forward, I figured why not take an inventory of what I already have in my studio and figure out how to kind of use that as a boundary for my art making. I have over the years accumulated a lot of different panels and papers and just different painting surfaces, and I don't actually know what I have. I don't know the inventory of everything that I have. I know I have a bunch of different panels in like really small sizes, some larger sizes. I have canvases that I've purchased years ago that still have the plastic on them. And have just was on sale, caught a sale, and was like, ooh, I'll figure out something to do with this canvas or with this panel, whatever, and just never did. So let's look at what I actually have, go through all of the shelves, all of the, I just want to have an inventory of everything I have, every possible art material I have, starting with the canvases and figuring out what we can do. So as I mentioned, I am going to do an inventory of all of the supplies that I have, or most of the supplies that I have. The biggest culprit of where all of these supplies are is in this IKEA drawer that I have. It's great for storing stuff, especially like panels and things like that, sketchbooks and stuff. So I have a lot of stuff just tucked away in this IKEA drawer, as well as on this metal shelving unit that I also got from IKEA. And yeah, great for storing stuff, but it's easy to kind of forget all of the stuff that you have. I will also say that as I was pulling this stuff out, I realized that a lot of these materials are stuff that I acquired early on in my art making journey when I was just kind of learning how to paint, what materials were best for me for certain types of things. So I have a lot of stuff that I actually don't use consistently anymore. Come on, like this is ridiculous. Why do I have a whole palette that I have never even, it still has a plastic on it? Like, that's crazy. As you see me pulling things out, there's some things that I just never used, I just purchased, and either forgot to return it or just forgot about it in general. And yeah, they still have the plastic on them, and they're things that I probably would not make sense for me to use in my art practice moving forward. So I'm either going to have to figure out how to use them or figure out how to maybe gift them or give them away to others somehow in the future. I have to think about that. Oh wait, there's more. But yeah, I'm just pulling everything out of the different nooks and crannies from which they are hidden. And yeah, as I have pulled everything out, I'm actually just kind of organizing them so that it doesn't feel overwhelming to me. Laid out here, it doesn't look that bad, but as I was, counting stuff and just putting stuff together, it just felt like a lot of stuff. So yeah, I'm just mostly going to be focusing on the panels in this video. Like I mentioned, I do have a ton of papers and things. In total, I kind of have panels and things in just various sizes. So I have 4x4s in the panels and canvases that I got from Michael's. I also have panels in a 5x7. This came in a 3-pack and I only used one of those panels out of that pack. I have panels in a 6x6 size. I also have panels in an 8x8 size. Quite a few panels in this size. For some reason, the square format was something that I gravitated towards early on. I'm not really sure why, but I just have a ton of 8x8 panels in both acrylic primed and oil primed surfaces. I have one unpainted 8x10. 8x10 is a common size that I use. I have one 8x10 that has nothing painted on it, but I just remembered I have an 8x10 that has paint on it that it was from a failed painting. So I'm gonna add that as another one as well. I also have panels in a 9x12 size and an 11x14. I also believe 12x12, 12x16, 16x20, a canvas in an 18x24, and then a canvas in a 24x30. Okay, so altogether that makes 5, 13, 14, 15, 25, 26, 32. So 32 surfaces to paint on, which is not like, that's a lot, but it's not overwhelming. Yeah, I think that's definitely, wait. Oh my God. I think I have, y'all, a whole roll that I completely forgotten about. I don't know, maybe not a whole roll, but I don't think I've used more than a third of this. I've cut and used some of it. Like, this is not a clean edge. And you can see how it's cut here. Y'all, this is insane. I have okay, so this has now become an intervention. I'm intervening on myself, because how in the world do I have a whole freaking roll of linen canvas? This is like really nice, expensive canvas, in addition to all of the 32 surfaces that I already had that I have not used. So as I'm beating myself up over just kind of the ridiculousness of having all of these panels, while that may not seem like a ton, for me, I have a very small studio space that I share with my partner, so I don't really have a ton of space. And so 32 surfaces that are just sitting in my space without being used is kind of unacceptable to me. And yeah, I was beating myself up about the roll of canvas, because I spent quite a bit of money on that canvas, and I convinced myself when I purchased it that I'm going to use it. Of course I'm going to use it. It's something that I really, really need. And then yeah, I used maybe a little bit and put the rest of it in a closet. So I was like, you know what, there has to be some sort of like psychological reasoning for this. Is it just me, or is this something that other humans do as well? And it is something that is pretty common, and researchers have actually looked at it. And I came across this article where researchers had done a study of how people choose to non-consume or not consume the objects that they have purchased, and how that can turn ordinary items into perceived treasures. This leads to somewhat of a trap called the specialness spiral. It's the idea of you assign outsized value to something and you forego using it for whatever reason, then the possession of that object starts to feel more special than the consumption of that object. So you'll want to save it for a later occasion. You'll continue searching for the right occasion day after day after day. And, you're tempted to hold out for a better day to use that object in the future. And ironically, the less that you use it, the less you're less likely to actually use it, and the cycle just continues. So I think of this in my own life, just anecdotally as well, not just with these panels and these, different art supplies, but think of like a sketchbook. Like, there have been many times when I've, cracked open a new sketchbook or a new journal, and I'm like, ooh, the paper is like perfectly, no creases in it. There's no marks on it. It is really crisp, nice paper. The back binding of the sketchbook or the journal is like crisp, perfect. It is beautiful, right? And it's just like the craftsmanship, the stitching, you just admire, right? Of how this, this object is just perfect, right? In its form. And you almost, let me speak for myself. I almost feel sometimes I don't want to mess up a sketchbook. I don't want to write on a journal. And in a way, there is some level of like limiting belief. It's just thinking about how we assign value to different objects and we deny ourselves the right or the privilege to be able to consume the thing. We've already purchased the sketchbook. The money's already been spent. But somehow believing that the sketchbook is better served sitting on the shelf unused in its perfect state, that somehow is a better value than having filled it with all of our thoughts, our dreams, our prayers, our wishes, our ideas, our concepts, our themes, whatever. Having a filled sketchbook with all of those things is way more valuable than a blank, crisp, perfectly lined sketchbook or journal that's never been touched, right? And so we somehow psychologically, does that make sense? Like, the value in it is actually in being messed up. And instead, we're saving it for a future occasion, and it's not as valuable. Objectively, it's just not as valuable. And so it leads, just accumulating all of these things can be quite destructive. It can just lead to clutter and the aforementioned feeling that I was feeling before of being overwhelmed, of feeling a little suffocated, of feeling like I am slowly drowning in a bunch of just materials that are just kind of moving from one corner to another to another to another. So yeah, it was definitely enlightening to read that and kind of see that, okay, I'm not the only one that deals with that. And that's not even just, something that's only limited to art supplies. Like, that is, you think about it, like even things like, you're a lipstick or a perfume or something, and, you assign this value of like, oh, that's my special occasion perfume or my special occasion lipstick or whatever, right? And if the perfume ends up going bad or going rancid, did you actually enjoy it? Did you actually get the use from it? No, you just purchased it and put it on a shelf and idealized it. So what I'm going to do about it, this like non-consumption habit that I've found myself in, well, for starters, I'm going to stop the limiting belief that I'm somehow being wasteful or that my supplies are special and maybe somehow needs to be protected in some way or something like that. Like, they are not. Their value in and of itself, their utility, the purpose of buying a sketchbook, the purpose of using paints, the purpose of using a paintbrush, the value is in being used and being consumed, not necessarily being purchased and put on a shelf. It's not a finished piece of artwork. The way that you would take a finished piece of artwork or a sculpture or something and put it on display is different than the art supply unused or uncreated. So yeah, I'm going to take that line of thinking has got to go. From there, like I said, I'm just going to start using them. If I have an idea for a painting or a piece of artwork, guess what? I'm only using what I have until it runs out. And lastly, I'm going to make sure that I share and keep myself accountable what I'm actually doing. So of the 32 that I mentioned, I'm hoping to in some way, shape, or form show what I created on them, right? Not to say that like all of them are going to be worthy of being sold, you know, or being shown in like an art exhibit or something like that. I highly doubt it. I'm not going to put any pressure on myself to expect that. But yeah, at the end of the day, I want to share the outcome, right? The beginning of this journey is really just kind of being accountable to myself to say, listen, I am an artist and this is what I want to do. And so to be an artist, you have to create, right? If I'm a creative, I have to create. And so I can't be a creative with just a bunch of panels, you know, sitting on a shelf. The only way I can be creative is to actually create. It's kind of like, yeah, that's not groundbreaking. Why are you making a video on it? But it's, you know, sometimes you got to realize hard truths, be honest with yourself, and put a mirror in front of yourself and really see what the truth is. So I hope that you enjoyed this video. If you did, definitely give it a like. Definitely also hit the subscribe button so that you can be notified of all videos that I have kind of similar to this topic or art making in general in the future. But yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you in the next one. Bye.